Hi, I'm Cheryl Jones with News OK, and our June Made in Oklahoma story is all about Oklahoma beef. And with me to share this story with you is Rick Holder, and he's from down by Altus.
That's correct. Yeah, I'm with Holder Brothers Beef. We've got a ranch down by Altus that raise Angus cattle. We produce the beef all naturally, which means we don't have any added hormones or antibiotics in our beef. And we try to do some special things to make it extra tender and extra good.
Wonderful. That sounds great. And he's got it down to quite a science. If you talk to him very long, you'll go, wow, I didn't know there was that much going into my steak or your burger.
Right. Yeah, we try to use all the technology available to us today, which we try to go in and use DNA samples on our bulls, which we can now determine if that bull has a tenderness gene or a marbling characteristic that he will give to his calves, his offspring. And then we also try to use electronic IDs to where we can pinpoint the perfect timing for harvest, and that's very important to tenderness as well. And then we dry age all of our beef a full 28 days.
Wow, that's very impressive. I never knew it was that down to that kind of science. That's amazing.
Well, the technology today is getting better all the time, and beef has always just been a commodity, and everybody really didn't know there was a lot of difference. But today, the quality is getting better and better, and people are figuring out, like we are, how to really make a good, tender, consistently good steak.
Rick's been doing this for quite a while, and it seems to me as your organization's passed from father to son through the years, so it makes this a perfect story for leading up to Father's Day.
Yes, my great grandfather and his brother settled on our ranch in 1898, and it's been in our family ever since. And my brother and I took back the Holder Brothers name. They had a general store back when they first settled there, so we've kept that Holder Brothers name in our organization and still operate it as a family.
Well, we can see why you're doing the Holder name proud, and we look forward to seeing how you cook steaks, because you're bound to have some secrets.
Well, I've developed a few secrets along the way. Nothing real special. I try to keep it pretty simple, but you just got to start with a great steak. I brought a bone-in ribeye, and I brought a New York strip, and then a skirt steak and a flank steak. The skirt steak, a lot of people cook those as a steak. It's the same cut as your fajita. So what I brought you could eat as a fajita or as a steak, but we'll cook those 4 cuts today.
What is the difference in the ribeye, say, and the New York?
Well, of course, the bone-in ribeye is out of the rib loin. It's probably the second most popular cut out of a beef besides the tenderloin. Very tender. It's got a lot of flavor. It's probably the second most tender steak behind the tenderloin, and then the New York strip is probably the third, and then sirloin after that. But the strip steak typically is not a very tender piece of meat, but ours, where we dry age it 4 weeks, is very good.
So you wouldn't really need to have a marinade on it, or?
I've cooked them both ways today. I like to use a little bit of olive oil and just a spice that I like. I'm using Daddy Hinkle's today. It's a Made in Oklahoma product as well, and I've used to mix up my own, but I really like this Daddy Hinkle, and I've been using it. So that's what I'm just going to put a little bit of olive oil on it, and along with the Daddy Hinkle's, let it kind of get to room temperature, and then I'll try to cook it. Put it on the very hottest part of the grill for about 1.5 minutes on each side, and then go to the cooler part of the grill, cook it to whatever temperature you would like.
That's great. So,
and then,
how long would you leave the rub on it, or the marinade?
I like about 30 minutes. Typically, I'll rub it, let it just set for about 30 minutes at room temperature, and then put it on the grill. And that's it. It cooks a little quicker that way. It's just it doesn't need to be cold, and that way you can get it cooked more through the steak more evenly by letting it get to room temperature.
What is your favorite though?
You know, I used to love the ribeye, but I've started, since we started dry aging, I've actually went to the New York strip. And we're noticing our sales here in our Edmond store. My New York strips are outpacing my ribeyes now. So we've got a special New York strip, and that's kind of what I've been eating these days. Our skirt steak and our flank steak, they're a little thinner cut of meat. We'll put some spices on it, and they'll cook at a very high temperature for a short period of time. Doesn't take very long to cook them at all. Then we'll cut it across the grain for a really good tender piece of meat.
How thick do you recommend the New York steak and the club steak, as people call it? How thick do you cut those?
We cut them really to get them to cook correctly. If you cut it less than an inch, it's really hard to keep the flavor in there and not overcook it. So we recommend between 1.25 inches and 1.5 inches. You know, we do special orders all the time. People like them 2 inches, 2.5. I mean, it's almost a roast, but a lot of people like to cook them that way because they most likely they're trying to get a little rarer piece of meat where they can cook it without burning it.
Tell us just a little bit about the timing involved in the dry age, and then how you follow it up with the wet age.
We found a USDA inspected plant that would allow us to dry age, which basically means the carcass hangs for 28 days at 37 degrees. A full 28 days, that allows the connective tissue to break down, get you a little added flavor, and also it really adds to the tenderness. And then once it's fabricated out at the plant, we fab it out, put it straight into a vacuum seal. So it's once it's fabbed, it's immediately vacuum sealed, and at that point it's wet aging. And we can actually keep those steaks 2 weeks without any problem wet aging, even after you've had a 4-week dry aging process. It actually gets even more tender during that wet aging process.